Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
We are a nation in decline.
Experts are preparing for what is known as Disease X, or the next pandemic.
What we are seeing is a revolution against the system.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning show where we talk about the news. I'm Vince Tagliavia, live with you every morning here to discuss finance, social news, especially with all these protests going on nowadays. U.S. news, world news, etc. I apologize if you could hear any little background noise there. More building going on here. So there we go. It never stops. I thought it would end, but we're back up with another project close enough to hear. Anyway, welcome one and all. Good morning. Good morning, Chris Large. Good to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Looking forward to your next show. Good morning, Forrest and Quiet Toad and Left Maryland and everybody else tuning in. If you're new, please hit the subscribe and join me when you can for the live streams as well as anything else I publish at other times. We're going to start here this morning with a little bit of finance. The markets are doing good. Stocks are up overall, largely attributed to Alphabet and Microsoft earnings. We also saw Snapchat with a huge move because they showed great revenue growth. So Snapchat's up 23% this morning. And the markets continue. This whole thing continues. Oh gosh, finance, such a wonderful world of weirdness. But yeah, it's still chugging along. Let's see here. This is an interesting little story. Actually, you know what? I guess we'll talk about it. Whatever. It's a little out of order, but I thought it was interesting. I saw this morning. Mary Talley Bowden, somebody who's been censored a lot, and has sued the FDA for interfering with DRPT and relationship and won. She's involved in health. She has put out this post this morning, concerned about being censored on X. She writes directly to Elon Musk. Hello, Elon Musk. She says, I've been trying to run a paid ad to promote my 501c4 Americans for Health Freedom, but I'm meeting obstacles. Customer support responded and is now ignoring me. Is this because of the content? AmericansForHealthFreedom.org. Yeah, very weird. And she posted her correspondence with customer support, etc. And it's something to wonder about. I've seen various accounts being censored on X and a lot of accusations and that they're still censoring. And then people don't like this whole idea of Elon Musk's idea of free speech, which still limits reach. So literally freedom of speech, freedom of reach. So yeah, people are still censored to a point where you'll have accounts with, 100,000 followers. They'll put a tweet out and only 1,000 of their followers will see it. For example, just arbitrary made up numbers here, but a relatively low number of people seeing content versus people actually following that person. It's very strange. And it seems to be a concern for many people out there on X. Anyway, we'll see. We'll keep our eye on it. But, sometimes you got to wonder. I certainly do. Hey, thank you, Maven. Thank you for the donation, a cookie over there on Pilled. I think I'm going to do an extra show this weekend for the Pilled folks. We're going to do probably a comedy episode. We'll look at all the memes and all the funny stuff and whatnot that we've seen over the past week or longer. Just all the funny stuff that I've collected over the weeks and days. So look forward to that over on Pilled, y'all. pilled.net for them. It'll be exclusively on there. I'm considering putting it on X too, so I may live stream that on X as well. We'll see. I probably will, actually, but I won't be doing it everywhere. All right. Yeah, well, actually, X, I don't know if I'll be doing it there or not. We'll see. We shall see. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. I've got more stories to cover. Interesting story came out. Trump plans on sanctioning countries for refusing to use the dollar. And he has his economic advisors or his team working on how they're going to maintain the power of the dollar. So that was interesting. Bloomberg reported on that. Very interesting. So, I mean, they're going to try to fix this, dig themselves out of this hole if they get the opportunity to. Which I say that because this election is, we're not guaranteed Trump wins. I hate to say it, but it is ongoing. We're going to have to wait and see, right? That's just the reality of it, in my opinion. I think that, anything can happen. Let's just say that. In other news, Javier Milei, he has caused the peso to become number one in the world, and he's very right leaning. He's the president of Argentina, and his plan is working for Argentinians. So it's an interesting thing to see there. Very interesting. People are applauding him for that. All right, take care, Chris. Thank you. In other news, housing defaults have reached the highest level in a decade in multifamily and apartments, or multifamily units, which are apartments. And yeah, highest level since 2013. And the last time we saw this was from 2018 to 2014 in this huge spike here in this chart you could see. And now we're on track. We're on a crash course to even go higher than 2010, 2011 levels. It's just a recipe for disaster. We already have so many homeless people. I think something like 0.5% of Americans or something along those lines. Just a crazy number. Mentally ill, drug addicts, et cetera, et cetera. It's so sad. And talked about the dollar a little bit. This is just more showing us that we're losing grip of the world. China has just rejected an American request to stop the purchase of Iranian oil, Alex Barnicoat reports. He says, today a record 16 million barrels of Iranian crude oil was spotted headed to China by American satellites. That's worth over $1.4 billion. Alex writes, the U.S. is no longer in charge. And then we have this. China and Russia have said their countries will expand military cooperation with Iran. Military cooperation with Iran. Wow. Oh my gosh. Didn't you have, oh yeah, Russia too. That's right. We saw that from Russia last week as well. Hoo-wee. Hey, half the world is night. Have your coffee ready. You made the show. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And welcome. All right. Onward. Let's see what we got. Man, we're going to look at what the heck's going on. There are so many protests happening. They're trying to arrest Trump and put him behind bars and, basically get him out of this election. Let's face it, because if you're convicted, you can't run for president, right? Isn't that the thing in the States? Biden, there's these numbers that came out that Biden is, according to Gallup polls, the worst president in U.S. history. Meanwhile, protests are erupting across the country. Campuses, college campuses. Here are the campus protests since Wednesday, April 17th. This is from yesterday, so this may be updated today. We may have more. Protests where arrests have taken place are in red. Other protests are in orange. And we have just, 20, 30, 40, a lot of protests here. My gosh. Look at this. This is just insane. And it's all college campuses, which is very strange. We're going to take a look at some of these. What is going on here? Very odd. Not really. It's not very odd. I take that back. I mean, you could have predicted this very easily. And we did. Hey, good morning, Liz. Thank you for tuning in. All right, let's take a look here. Kind of the most recent news that I've seen on this, coming from Andy No this morning. He's a journalist in Washington State. He's been covering these protests pretty diligently in this long thread since April 22nd. He has updated us saying, and let me get to the most current one here. That was this. Some of the same people who organized the BLM Antifa riots in 2020 Portland, Oregon, are now organizing the occupation at Portland State. Interesting. So I've been waiting for this to be confirmed. I've heard speculation over the weeks, and here you go. Andy knows, kind of confirming it here. One of the main accounts that helped organize the 2020 BLM Antifa riots is now calling for militants to descend on Portland State to help grow the Chaz-style encampment there. Rising PDX is run by Danielle James. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's weird. Who is not a student at PSU. So isn't that interesting? All of a sudden, whatever the cause is, you have the same group of people just picking up their flags and joining the protests, which peaceful protesting, great. I love it. Cool. First Amendment, right? Cool. Great. Good. But there is some evidence of this going beyond peaceful, which is why we see arrests, I hope. I mean, every single instance should be evaluated, because the last thing we want is peaceful protesters to not have the right to protest. However, I think that once you become violent, once you start breaking laws, taking away other people's rights, that's when the police should step in. And that's my opinion. And I think that's the way the law works as well. So let me know what you guys think, because a lot of people think that this is their First Amendments are being taken away. But so there's big debates going on. Liz, USC just canceled their graduation ceremony because of the protesters. These are the same graduates who couldn't have a high school graduation ceremony because of COVID. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. But yeah, I heard that USC did cancel their graduation ceremony. I didn't realize. Yeah, I guess so, huh? The same students who couldn't have their high school graduation. Wow. What a horrible situation for this generation. That is just so sad. My gosh. Andy No has more here. Interesting. Some of the Gaza encampment organizing is being done on Telegram, the app, where messaging and directives can be tightly controlled. The militant encampment at Northwestern U, for example, is organizing on there, and he has the screenshots. Northwestern's Liberation Zone is the name of the account. They've put an update here. They say, update on pigs. Their cars left the encampment and have been mostly leaving us alone. The strategy is that they give us this one day to save face on the free speech end, and then end the encampment by tonight to move forward with their event plans for tomorrow. So again, show up at 8 p.m. This was, I believe, yesterday. And then more in the middle of the night. They write, thanks to the pressure from community, we are not expecting police arrests to begin tonight, but will remain vigilant. For those leaving the encampment tonight, please return back as early as 5 a.m. They write again, of course, NU is not letting us sleep in peace, as sprinklers have been activated throughout the lawn and are slowly getting closer to the main encampment area. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh, my connection tried to go there. Oh my gosh. Let's see if we could actually do a show without being interrupted today. All right. Hey, Black Jester, how you doing over there? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, let's look at more. All right. So House Speaker Johnson, love him or hate him, he's proposing that the National Guard be brought in, perhaps, because of these protests. So that's what was going around yesterday. So we'll see. I don't know. But it's early. It is early. We've got months of nice weather, and it's already this crazy. I am not looking forward to how this all shakes out. I don't think it's going to be good. I think we're going to see rising tensions, bigger protests. Something's gonna, if you get one bad thing that happens, like a George Floyd event or something, right? Something of that nature where somebody gets hurt or somebody decides to get violent. And somebody could be anybody. It could be a police officer. It could be a protester. It could be a terrorist. It could be any type of thing, right? Any violence from anywhere is going to spark outrage. And this is just a recipe for disaster. And the way that it's happening is very suspicious, in my opinion. Especially you have the same organizers from a few years ago and evidence of that. And I mean, come on. How is this happening? And if I have the information, why doesn't law enforcement have the information, or FBI, or whoever should be looking at this kind of thing and taking care of it? Of course, say it was on our radar. If something ever happens, they'll say that it was on our radar. Yeah, nothing's being done. I mean, there's serious concerns here, serious concerns. I'm not talking about free speech protests, real concerns. Anyway, we'll see some of that here. We'll talk about it. Here is yesterday, Cal Poly. Pro-Hamas protesters and far-left activists were occupying buildings. Oh, and they pushed officers away and kind of claimed the building. So I have a question. Why aren't these protests, happening in public? Usually First Amendment practices and peaceful protests happen in public when you're not not impeding roads, not stopping traffic and closing businesses, but just in public. Classic peaceful protest. These are all happening on university campuses and places like that. And I think that is why they're being trespassed, and then the police are getting involved, or they are getting a little rowdy with campus police, and then other police are getting involved. So that's why we're seeing kind of this escalation. They're being trespassed and they're not leaving, and they're not being trespassed everywhere. They weren't trespassed in Washington State when they started their protests. They were just left alone. Interesting how some states are cracking down, other states aren't on this issue. Oh man. And even if they are cracking down, they're probably let out of jail. Let's just face it. That's just the way it's going to work. But onward. This was quite concerning. Hezbollah terror flags were found at Princeton's anti-Israel encampment. And I've got, I think, at least images of this. Fox reported Princeton University police arrested 2 people on Thursday following a protest began as a sit-in on McCosh Courtyard. Students at elite college campuses across the U.S. are forming Gaza solidarity encampments and are participating in marches to call on their respective schools to stop supporting Israel. Some of the protests are becoming unruly. Here are some of these terrorist flags. Hezbollah. Yeah, the Hezbollah flag this is a quote from Fox News. The Hezbollah flag was spotted at the encampment at approximately 5:16 p.m. Thursday, according to the Daily Princetonian. Organizers then promptly asked it be put away. Wow. Let's go over to X and look at these images. But yeah, these are literal Hezbollah flags. Very wild stuff. I mean, this blows my mind. It really does. What is going on? Huh. Yeah, it's just I don't know, guys. Yeah. Here's a quote from Fox News. Hezbollah primarily operates out of southern Lebanon, where it has regularly attacked Israel since the October 7th terror attack in Israel, which ignited a war in the region. Hezbollah, seeking to capitalize on the fighting between Israel and Hamas, has launched various missile attacks from across Israel's northern border against its mutual enemy, Israel. So, yeah. And you notice something here. I don't see any. These are actual Hezbollah people, right, in Lebanon. I don't see any rainbow flags. I don't see any diverse skin colors. Okay, that's because they do not support this kind of Western ideology, which somehow is tied directly in with some of the protests that we see. Literally, DEI being a part of these protests along with being pro-Palestine. So they're arguing, we need diversity and we need to free Palestine, diversity and inclusion and free Palestine. What? I don't get it. It's backwards. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. And I don't know, man. It's just weird. This is all so weird. Onward. New York Post wrote, a despicable anti-Israel protester has sparked horror after being photographed at George Washington University with a sign, with a sign calling for the final solution, which is the Nazi plan to exterminate all Jews that was talked about by Hitler. Literally a sign. What? This is the type of stuff where it's like, hey, this isn't so peaceful. You're calling for exterminations of groups of people. I don't care what kind of people it is, okay? I don't care if it's this color or that color or this belief or that country or this country. Violence is violence. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to take sides here. But yeah, this is really happening. Final solution with a Palestine flag. Here we go. The image quickly sparked outrage from many shocked at the term used during the Holocaust, the New York Post writes. They wrote, quote, one user on X wrote, quote, the parallels between this movement and actual Nazism is real and scary. And something weird about Nazism, I feel like they've convoluted the definition of Nazi, because everyone's called a Nazi if you disagree with them. I've heard this from a lot of younger people, especially online. You could say pretty much anything. And if they disagree with you, it could be about any topic. You're a Nazi all of a sudden. And I think this takes away from what a Nazi really is, and it convolutes the definition. I would love to do a study and just ask a bunch of younger people, what is the definition? What is your definition of a Nazi? How do you define Nazi? I'm curious. But yeah, this is wild stuff. Oh, man, it's getting sketchy out there. And of course, weirdly enough, and I guess it's not weird, we could have probably guessed it with how things are going. Faculty everywhere, not everywhere, but a lot of places, maybe everywhere. Faculty, here is one example. At George Washington University has joined student protests that are disrupting final exams. So yeah, you've got good old professors jumping in, or faculty at least. Here they are. Disrupting final exams. I mean, is this a peaceful protest if you're disrupting college campuses? People can't take their final exams? Like, this seems a little bit much. That's not right, man. A lot of people are being affected by that. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. Very disruptive. And I think it's great. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I'm just going to move on. The chair of Emory University's philosophy department was arrested yesterday.
Anything I can do for you right now? Can you call the philosophy department office and tell them I've been requested? Philosophy department? Yes. Call the philosophy department office. I will. What's your... I'm chair of the philosophy department. I got you.
Chair of the philosophy department being taken away on day 2 at the University of... at Emory University. Wow. And then the University of Texas, Austin, we got more protests. They're just everywhere. It's nuts. I can't even keep up with everything going on. But we have some more interesting little tidbits. Again, in Texas, they're being led by faculty. Nick Sorter wrote that thousands of protesters at the university, thousands of protesters have shown up on campus led by faculty members yelling not just for Palestine, but also in support of DEI hiring practices. It's starting to get rowdy here as pro-Israel counter-protesters also make their voices heard, prompting responses from the other side. I read a story about one counter-protester, pro-Israel with the Israeli flag, being attacked at one of these protests. This is what I'm talking about, where things get violent and you get people arrested because you can't have that. You can't have violence. Oh my gosh. Forrest, I'm a Nazi, you're a Nazi. Wouldn't you like to be a Nazi too? Oh my God. Are you in Washington, Vince? Yes, I am in Washington State. Thank you for reminding me. It's a beautiful place if you disregard the city, and most of it's red, I do believe. At least I'm in the red area. And even here you get a lot of spillover from Seattle, so it's like you run into some pretty wild stuff. That's a conversation for another day. But Forrest, thank you for the donation. And you write, these sick in the head professors need to be fired at best. And it's funny you mentioned that. Florida actually has clamped down, and they did tell their staff, if you are involved in this, you will be fired. And so I think they're quelling the protests pretty well in Florida. And interesting to see that, where other states, not so much. They're not doing anything, which I would assume, I mean, in the world that I grew up in, if you disrupt the campus activities such as final exams or even just students being able to attend their classes, that you'd be fired, right? That just makes sense to me. And that would probably be for any college. I don't know how this has gotten so bad to the point where that's not the case everywhere. But yeah, I think you're right. I'm about to move to Southern Oregon. Cool, Forrest. Interesting. Oregon's wonderful. Yeah, Southern Oregon. Oh, that's a great area. I've been down there. Yeah, well, tell me about it. That's really cool. I love it down there. It is a little bit there's a little bit of like, they're a little free spirited down there. There's like the hippie type, but also kind of like the it depends. There's a lot of country out there too, but if you go to like these little towns and stuff that are a little more populated, you get like really cool breweries and outdoor activities and nice neighborhoods. It's nice. Southern Oregon's great. Anyway, this was interesting. Snipers were spotted on top of roofs at Ohio and Indiana universities. Is this normal? Do you guys ever see snipers on roofs at protests like this setting up, or is this just something a little odd? This was reported by Roz Alerts on X. Have you guys seen snipers on roofs for peaceful protests, or what? Maybe protests that become not so peaceful. Roz Alerts wrote, snipers have been spotted on rooftops at Ohio and Indiana universities as protesters, pro-Palestine protests are causing an uproar. Ohio and Indiana, they continue. As dozens of protests break out across the United States at numerous universities, students and protesters have reported sightings of snipers on top of rooftops at Ohio State University and the University of Indiana Bloomingdale's, causing an uproar. Some comments expressed concern, stating that, quote, putting snipers on the roof against students is exactly what police states do, or, quote, this is absolutely outrageous, unquote. However, the presence of snipers is likely for safety reasons in case of any potential threats or emergencies. Wow, so obviously. Here we go. Let's see how this goes. Testing. Friday interruption to test. We got a little. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, folks. I'm back here. If these snipers on the rooftops are for safety reasons, in case of any potential threats or emergencies, like Roz Alerts suggests here might be the case, they're expecting something, right? That would mean they're expecting this to get more out of hand, which is just horrifying. And I feel bad for these people lulled into this. How many of them are just kind of manipulated? You got to think about it, especially if it's the same protesters that protest whatever, just like the next thing to protest, right? Whatever the protest is that year, they get on board. If these people are hurt, that's just horrible. I mean, this whole thing is just horrible. Anybody getting hurt, this just sucks. So I hope things don't get out of hand, but I think that's just kind of what they're pushing for. I know, and once that happens, things don't get better. I mean, people get more pissed off. That's how it works. So, man, it's an election year. Ooh, it's only April, and here we are. I mean, this isn't shaping up to be good. I mean, from a social standpoint of people wanting to protest and being unhappy to an economic standpoint where, boy, Trump actually made a good point that at least things are so bad now and not later to where Biden is going to have a harder time to be elected. Anyway, Liz said many of these protesters are paid. Most of them can't even explain what they're protesting. Yeah, and somebody made a comment earlier too, mentioning George Soros. Half the World Is Night said, paid for by Soros. I feel bad for kids today. Thank you, Half the World Is Night. Yeah, I've heard, I think, who reported it? It might have been the New York Post or somebody was saying that this is all George Soros funded. And yeah, there's we saw that in 2020 as well. So it's interesting. Here's an image that people were interested in, where all of the tents at this campus tent encampment were identical. And they said, is this because whoever's funding this just, did a mass order of the same tent and then provided it to the protesters? Or is it because this is the cheapest tent on Amazon? Which I don't know the answer to that, but people are just saying, hey, look, all these tents are the same. Isn't that weird? It is a little bit. Something to note, at least. Yeah. And this person writes, this is from Afshin Emrani. He is a cardiologist, and he wrote that about the students here. He says, the students, sincere though they may be, are merely manipulated props. There's one tent there that says Jews for Free Palestine, which is interesting. I mean, very interesting. It doesn't make sense, but okay, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, whatever you want to be. Okay. I don't get it, guys. I don't get it. Thank you, Maven, again. My gosh. Okay, and here's what I'm talking about. It goes a little beyond peaceful. Black non-binary Columbia student leading the Gaza protest says, quote, Zionists don't deserve to live. This is a very hateful comment. He made other very hateful comments as well, advocating for very illegal things, and posted some videos online as well. Very concerning that these are the leaders of these organizers calling for such violence, saying that certain people don't deserve to live. Wow. And but I mean, why isn't this guy being arrested? Isn't that like, when you say that plus what the other things he said, isn't that like a call to violence? Isn't that outside the realm of free speech? And like, wow. You have Israel supporters also standing up. Columbia University, for example, you have counter protests going on at various locations. And of course, this is increasing tensions between the different groups, just yelling at each other's faces hysterically and whatnot. Here is more. We're going to move on in a second, but these protests are just, there's so much information. Andy No wrote, like Seattle's Chaz, the occupation at Columbia by leftists is being flooded with donations to buy food, resources, and camp supplies. No community farm yet. Venmo appears to be the primary platform for the money laundering. Video by Ricky Schlott from the New York Post. I'll follow Ricky. So yeah, just here's just a lot of the groceries. These signs say class of 15 for Palestine. Keep us safe. Peace, peace, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, all these supplies being provided. Asian American Alliance stands with Palestine. Wow. And then there's the Black Lives Matter fist. I can't read the sign, but you've got the Black Lives Matter fist. You got Asian Americans. You've got, I don't know what that is. Free Palestine. The number of people killed in 2 weeks. Some statistics on a sign. Wow. Just all a hodgepodge of various groups coming together in these protests. And like Andy No said, yes, leftists seems to be the trend. Wow. Nobody's surprised. Holy smokes, guys. Well, it was on our bingo card. We knew this was coming, and now we're just sitting back and watching it all unfold. Hey, thanks for the repost over there, Fuchi. However you pronounce your name. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Over there on X. Let me pin this so people could watch it later. Anyway, onward. All right. You've also got protests starting at the University College London in London, UK. So it's becoming a global affair, these protests. Wow. The University of Florida employees will be trespassed and fired if they participate in these Gaza encampments, and students will also be suspended and trespassed for 3 years from the university. So, yeah, we probably won't see much happening in Florida because there's consequences being imposed. Wow, imagine that. A little bit of law and order happening. What a rare thing in this day and age. All right. Yeah, you've got more professors, a UCLA professor arguing with an Israel supporter. You've got another professor here. This video was going viral. This professor just hysterical while getting arrested at Emory University.
You people are fascists. You are Hitler. You are happy dog. Shame on you. May you never live another day.
I am a professor. So what? Do professors just have immunity from being arrested? No. Ask Florida. Sorry to break it to you, lady. It's really concerning that a lot of these are staff at these colleges that are kind of leading the way or participating in these massive protests. That's just my opinion. It's just wild, absolutely wild. And look, there's nothing wrong with a peaceful protest, but like we sprinkle in violence and crazy rhetoric, and that's where I draw the line. Yeah, calling them Hitler. I know half the world is night. It's just crazy. And I want to give a shout out here. Poonslayer, good morning. Alex, thank you for joining. Evening to you as well. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Let's move on. That's enough protests. That's enough. Oh my gosh. I hope we don't get them in my community. We've been lucky. But we have them in our state, and that's kind of concerning enough, I'll be honest with you. I think this is some quite concerning stuff. But we'll move on here. Yeah, I talked about Biden. His approval rating goes to show he is, in fact, the worst president to date in American history. And here is the data from Gallup. Joe Biden at the bottom here, 38.7. The number of polls indicating on the right here, 38.7, worse than Bush, old Bush Senior. Yeah, wow. So just, it's real. That seems to be the case. It's probably much worse than that too. Let's face it. It really probably is. That's my opinion. I don't know, but I would guess. If I had to guess, I would guess it probably is much worse. We have Trump, another day in court today. It's also Melania's birthday. So Melania, I know you love to watch my show. Happy birthday. Trump wished her a happy birthday. He said he's going to Florida later to spend some time with her this evening after this corrupt court case. This morning, Trump spoke ahead of the fourth day of testimony in the hush money trial. The hush money trial. Isn't it funny they call it a hush money trial when maybe it wasn't even hush money, and that's just what they call it. I think it's just semantics here. Anyway, let's listen to what Trump had to say this morning.
So we have another day of court.
This is kind of comical.
In a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there for on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine. Let them keep handing it out. There's a rigged trial. Thank you very much.
He just talked about the freezing courthouse. They can't get the temperature right, and that it's a rigged trial. I just thought it was funny that that's kind of what he focused on in that little bit of his I don't want to call it a speech, whatever you want to call it, but here's another clip from this morning. that's a little more substantial. I just thought that one was funny. Of course, he goes on about it being cold.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I want to start by wishing my wife, Melania, a very happy birthday. Be nice to be with her, but I'm at a courthouse for a rig trial. It's a rig trial. Terrible. But we're doing very well in this rig trial. Everybody knows it. Yesterday was a big day, but I do have to begin by wishing Melania happy birthday. She's in Florida. I'll be going there this evening after this case finishes up, this horrible, unconstitutional case. When it finishes up, we have a report that was just put out by House Judiciary on the District Attorney's Office. This was done by Congress, and so I guess it just came out a little while ago, a few moments ago. I haven't seen it yet, haven't read it, but it should be interesting. I think yesterday went very well in this courthouse. It should be over. The case is over. You heard what was said, and the case should be over. But you'll have to make that determination. I think we have a judge that will never allow this case to be over in a positive way. It's highly conflicted, the most highly conflicted judge I've ever seen. And yesterday, I think in the Supreme Court having to do with immunity, I heard the argument was brilliant. I listened to it last night. I thought it was really great. I thought the judge's questions were great. And all presidents have to have immunity. It has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. All presidents have to have immunity. If you don't have a president, certainly not a president that the founders wanted. So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse.
Okay, there he goes about the freezing courthouse. But yeah, if you don't have immunity, you don't have a president, he says. Onward, man. We'll have updates on this, I'm sure, later today, if not now. Let's see. Let's see if Trump made any comments on Truth Social since I've been live here the last 45 minutes or so. Nope. His last post was an hour ago, so we'll see if he might just enjoy his weekend. Who knows? But onward here. The Gateway Pundit put out this article talking about some court documents that were released that indicate Jack Smith and the FBI were after some Obama and North Korea related documents at Mar-a-Lago. They're talking about the Mar-a-Lago raid that happened with Trump. And interesting, there's a lot of speculation as to what they were actually going after that day that there was that raid and that they were unsuccessful. But here is one thing they mentioned. It says here in this document that it says there is no. Okay, yeah, here's the quote. There's one accordion folder in the mess, so it stood out. It contained, among other things, the Obama letter and North Korea correspondence. We need to verify that all of that correspondence is there, but I think we're in good shape. So basically, they're speculating that they were actually going after that type of information. I don't know, but they're looking at different correspondences and what actually happened there. It's just all craziness, man. All right. Julie Kelly's following this and posting information too. If you guys don't follow her on X, she's a January 6th conspiracy theorist and insurrection denier. So you could follow Julie Kelly. She's really good at following a lot of this legal stuff and whatnot. Okay. Kansas City Scout. This was an interesting little story. I just wanted to note. Apparently there was a hack in Kansas City. We seem to have these every week. Kansas City Scout, they're responsible for monitoring the city traffic cameras and signs. They were affected by a cyber attack early in the morning on Thursday, April 25th. And I think they may be back up now. I haven't seen an update from them. Thank you for your patience. April 25th, 11:30 a.m. They put out a notice, and 9:40 a.m. they also put out another notice about the same thing. where all of their systems went down, including their website, traffic cameras, and message boards. And staff was working to get it all back up. They don't have a timeline, et cetera, and I haven't seen them post an update. So, wow. 2 hours ago, reminder. That's not it. Oh, this is just more about their attached is an update graphic. Let's see here. Early in the morning, all systems went down. This includes the website cameras and message boards. Staff are working. I guess they're still working on it. This was just 2 hours ago. Oh, wait. No. We will communicate as soon as systems are back online. Yeah, they're still down. Wow. Interesting. Anyway, just another little hack there. It's probably just some guy in his mom's basement, right? I don't know, man. We'll see. Stuff's weird. All right. World news. Russia attacks Ukraine's rail lines again in order to disrupt the supply of U.S. arms. Yeah. Ukraine just got their 60 plus billion signed over from the U.S. and it looks here like Zelensky is sending out messages or calling for expats to come home and that they need to fight this war, and that if you are an adult up to 60 years old, then you should stay in Ukraine and fight this war for Zelensky. Yeah, nobody wants to fight the war. Let's face it. We saw even before the war kicked off, a lot of Ukrainians coming to the U.S. I met some. No one wants to fight wars, especially these crazy, crazy, pointless wars. Yeah, sad. Australia still going off about Elon. They say an Australian senator said that Elon Musk should be jailed for opposing censorship. Oh, wow. Yeah, Australia is trying to control the world's internet and censor the world. Yeah, they want to control what goes on the internet, including memes. They don't want you to put memes of political figures. They don't want you to make memes of them. They don't want you to take their head and put it on other things or make animations of them criticizing their fascist policies or anything that's weird about their government or anti-freedom. So definitely keep your eye on that. They're going nuts over there in Australia. By the way, speaking of Australia, they've gone completely mad in Canada. Did you know in Canada you're not allowed to share news stories with people online? You can't even share local news on Facebook and text messages and whatnot. If you do, it's blocked and you get warned. Literally, this is happening in Trudeau's Canada. Castro Jr., a lot of people call him. Yeah, you cannot share information in Canada. This is happening now. It's crazy, guys. And, this is a big problem. And in Brazil, they're arresting journalists and canceling their passports for reporting it, right? Just for reporting and talking online. It's crazy, the free speech clampdown in the world right now. Australia, Canada, Brazil, and more. Let's talk about China. Gosh. Or North Korea, right? Oh, man. This is not good. We got to hold on to these little things. They are very important. This morning, the Israeli National Security Minister, Ben Gvir, was involved in a car accident. His vehicle flipped over and overturned. He has been rushed to the hospital for treatment. I haven't heard an update. This is kind of breaking in the last hour or so. So I haven't heard anything else. Let's just take a quick look if we have any updates. Israeli National Security Minister Ben Gvir had an accident in his car. His car flipped over. No updates yet. But pretty wild that happened. We'll see what updates we have later in the day. Onward. Let's talk about health here. Half the world is nice says pure communism. Yep. Rowdy, thanks for joining us. How come they never protest about paying taxes? I love that. Yeah. You're right. Because that's not what they're told to. But they don't, because that's not the thing they're told to protest. Is Klaus still in the hospital? I never confirmed that he ever was in the hospital. That was going around last week. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Oh my gosh. I don't know about Klausy. Yeah. But let's see here. I want to talk about health. We had Bobby Kennedy Jr. This is a pretty interesting little thing. He says that we are the unhealthiest country in the world and talks about some data and some studies and whatnot. I wanted to show you this video, and it's not because anything political or anything like that. It's simply from just to hear what he's talking about here. Take it with a grain of salt, like anything, but he talks about some studies, some information, his opinion, and I want y'all to hear this.
I'm worried about every pharmaceutical drug. Peter Ghosh, who's one of the most influential epidemiologists on the planet, he was the co-founder of the Cochrane Collaboration, which is 30,000 independent scientists who do clinical trial reviews. And he published a study this week that showed that pharmaceutical drugs are now the primary cause of death in our country. So 5 years ago, he did a study that showed that at that time, pharmaceutical drugs were the third leading cause of death after cancer and coronary arrest. Now they're the number one cause of death in our country. And, I think there's all kinds of things that we don't know about the impacts of we take more pharmaceutical drugs than anybody.
At every stage of life now.
And we're the unhealthiest country in the world. And, a lot of the behavioral issues that we're seeing, a lot of the endocrine, the sexual development issues that, that we're seeing, the loss in sperm counts, the early menstruation of girls, the early puberty, many other issues can be traced to these, and the violence that we're seeing in our society, the mental illness, the depression, the suicide, the homicide, these are all can be an impact of pharmaceutical drugs, and we know almost nothing about them. Why? Because the pharmaceutical industry controls NIH, CDC, and FDA, and I believe in choice. The issue you raised about abortion pill, I think we ought to know what the side effects are, what the risks are, what the benefits, and that everybody should have an informed choice, and we don't have that now.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Forrest. I was muted. Yeah, he goes on to talk about the freedom to decide based on information being important to him when it comes to health. And I just found it very concerning that we are the country that takes the most pharmaceuticals, which are designed to allegedly make us healthier, right? But we take the most, so we should be the healthiest, right? No, that's not the case according to this study and what they're saying here in that video. So, yeah, very concerning health stuff. Oh, the health stuff is so depressing, man. It really is. Seeing these people suffering from all these different diseases and ailments and not being able to voice their opinions and tell the world what's going on, being censored and all this stuff. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. Meanwhile, we have Pfizer here. Pfizer has received U.S. approval for a gene therapy against a form of hemophilia, which is a rare and inherited blood clotting disorder, the company said today. Oh, great. So, yeah, we have approval for a very rare blood clotting genetic disorder, hemophilia. Yeah, that has nothing to do with anything else, I'm sure. I mean, there's no other weird blood clots happening, is there? I saw this with people after the jab, and a lot of people started having health issues, and it was things like having to do with their blood pressure and different things like this. Yeah, Liz. And some of these people just happily went and got these jabs, and then they're having these major health issues, which are like life-threatening, they're hospitalized for it, and they're diagnosed with a blood disease. They're diagnosed with some crazy thing like hemophilia or something else. I'm not going to say who I'm thinking about because it's just not right, but I've seen it. And basically, based on their diagnosis, they come out and say, it's just a genetic disorder. It's just genetics. And I'm very fortunate to be alive. It has nothing to do with what just happened earlier this year or last year or whatever, however long it takes. And I'm just thinking, maybe there's something more to this whole genetic disorders. I've heard the theory of like, what's a common genetic disorder, like diabetes. Diabetes just runs in the family. Yeah, I'm probably going to die of a heart attack because my dad died of a heart attack and his dad died of a heart attack. Oh yeah, it's just genetic. I don't know how much of it actually is genetic and how much is that actually like 100% proven, because I've heard the argument that maybe it's because your father, your grandfather, and his grandfather all lived in the same environment. Maybe it's because you all have the same habits and same diets and same environment, where environment can cause illnesses because of chemicals, etc. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that, huh? Ever think of that? Just curious. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but maybe it's less genetic than we think. I think that there is epigenetics, which means you can change your genes a little bit in a way, right? So I don't know. Just saying, y'all. I'm not any kind of genius or anything like that, but just thoughts. Half the World is Night says, I think most of it is poor diet. Yeah, maybe so. I think diet has a lot to do with it, especially eating these horrible processed foods and whatnot. Trying not to do that, that's for sure. I think so too, Half the World is Night. And just having the right building blocks for the right functions of your body, right? Yeah. So anyway, this was kind of interesting. The world is changing. Technology is advancing. AI, for instance. And this is getting concerning. We had a high school athletic director arrested. High school athletic director arrested for attempting to frame the principal with an AI-generated audio, fabricating anti-Black and anti-Semitic conversation. Yeah. So, the high school athletic director created this AI-generated audio, released it, leaked it, and tried to pass it off as real in order to implicate somebody else in crimes, hate crimes. And it turned out to be fake. Wow. So yeah, I mean, this can happen more and more into the future. It will be. And I'm talking deep fakes, fake audio. This stuff's wild, and it's becoming more and more accessible and easy to do. So I think we'll see eventually one of these probably people become a victim of fake AI generated stuff. Could you imagine? We're going to have like anti-AI or like an AI detection systems in courts and stuff, because what if the evidence is AI, right? And to the human eye, it looks real. And what if AI gets to the point where AI can't even detect if it's real or not? I don't know if that's even possible, but who knows? AI is creepy, man. Who knows what the future is going to look like? So wild. I'm sure there is a solution, but man, it's scary. AI is scary. Don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Anyway, guys, it's Friday and I have a busy day ahead of me. I'm sure y'all have busy days ahead of you too. So let's. Oh, I lost connection. I'll stay here to say my goodbyes. Let's see. Test. All right. I just want to say goodbye, everybody. Enjoy your days. Happy Friday. I'll see you this weekend. I don't think, actually, I will go live on Pilled. If anything happens, I'll post a video or two. Thank you all for tuning in and liking and subscribing and doing all this stuff and joining me and following the news. Follow me on X if you would, please. And we could have conversations there. Love to see y'all over there. Anyway, I got to get on with it, everybody. Thank you all so much. Have a great one, Liz, and everybody else. Take care. God bless and Godspeed.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
2024 may be the year of a black swan event.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."